Hey guys, welcome back to more AFK Arena. In today's video, I was doing some research for a fun video that I wanted to make, and I came across this old tier list from the launch of the game. And I've done this before, probably 2 to 3 years ago, and I wanted to jump in and do it again and just do a revision of the launch tier list, because a lot of people are new in the last 3 years. A lot of people may not have seen it. A lot of people may not have been around from there, and for the people that were around at the launch of the game, this is a great nostalgia trip. Just for reference on those who were around at the launch of the game, and remember the meta, which everyone else will find out soon as we reveal this. My first 10 pool on my first ever account had an Athalia, a Brutus, and a Namora in it. So I've been OP from the very start of the game. But this tier list we're looking at is by a dude on YouTube who's called Lord Chaotic. He doesn't make content anymore, but I remembered watching this video, I think before I even started making content for AFK Arena, or maybe I just started making content for it, and I was completely new to the game. So that's how long ago this was, this meta. Let's get in and take a look, because this was some good stuff. I loved where the game used to be a place where tanks were tanks, and mitigating damage and, you know, having stats kind of mattered in that sense. Now it's like, if you don't just straight ignore damage, like be completely immune, what are you even doing as a tank? Few exceptions to that, but you know what I mean. It's crazy where the game was compared to where it is now. You could never do a tier list in this format because you just wouldn't fit them all on the page. But let's get into it. So we're going to go slide by slide, look at each tier. Now I'm just going to open up fodder tier and level 160, because these are all the legendary tier heroes. Now, there was definitely a phase in the game where Muriel would have been considered one of these level 160s, meaning a character that you could use very effectively until level 160, but that was their cap. Verdan used to be a savage, and same with Savius, because they both healed so much and dealt so much damage, and they were both agility based, which back in the day when you weren't at such a high deficit, the dodges were huge. And Arden was great because once you got him to 141, especially I think it was, that's when he started rooting 3 enemies with his roots. Now, like I said, Muriel had a phase where she would have been up there as well, and people were using Muriel as a carry as well. So that's where we look at it. I also got some use out of Sylvina from time to time back in the day as well, but that is about the extent of where it went, and that was our tiers. Yes, these guys actually ranked in the tier list because they were actually important for the early part of the game, because you weren't getting all your characters level 160 in like a day or two. Not like it is today. It used to take a long time to get there. Back in the day, clearing chapter 3 as a free-to-play in a day used to be a pretty big achievement. I'm pretty sure that's the way it used to be. But let's jump in and let's look at the next tier, tier 3. Let's take a look. So over here, when we look at Estrilda, this is the funny thing. This is where it's going to be interesting to see where the characters were then to where they fall now, because Estrilda still does have some use. Same with Warwick. Warwick actually has a decent boss usage still in the game, so he's still not a bad character. But you know, when you look at campaign and stuff, you got to remember this is before signature items, before furniture, before engravings, before anything like that. Then we had the tree. The tree definitely needs some love. I would love to see an awakened tree. An awakened tree would be really cool. I would love to see okay, this is what I want out of it. Sucks because unfortunately Tass is already a thing, but when I think about the tree and an awakened form, I think about Togemon from Digimon. For those that are Digimon fans, if you remember Togemon, it was the cactus, and when it goes from champion to ultimate, I forget the ultimate form's name. It's just left me, but it turns into like a fairy that like flowers out of the top of the cactus. We need something like that, like something to grow out of the tree as an awakened form. I think it would be sick. But yeah, he was absolutely trash back in the day. He's absolutely trash now, but hey, he still holds a place in my heart. And then we have Thorin as the worst Graveborn, which is crazy considering how Thorin cheese works now. Now, I personally am not a fan of Thorin cheese, and outside of that, he's not as strong, but yeah, in Thorin cheese he's still fantastic. I just personally hate the Thorin cheese style of play, so I ain't gonna touch it. I struggle to make myself do it on my accounts. It's just not something I personally find fun. I just can't do it. Anyway, moving on from that, let's go into tier 2. So tier 2 gets interesting because now we have Cirrus and Kaz getting some love. Dude, the Wilders were stiff at the start. Cirrus and Kaz getting into tier 2. Then K-Sauce, my man K-Sauce. He used to actually be pretty decent back in the day when it was less less deficit because the extra life leech that he provided and stuff like that. He's had a big rework since then as well, so he was in a complete different state. Same with Isabella. But then you got Numisu, Totem Dude. Totem Dude used to be actually insane to get at the start of a game because his totems used to do damage and heal like crazy in the early game, so he could actually be really effective in like the early like day 1, day 2 type thing. Over here, Forks used to be a really pivotal part in Lightbearer teams for the banish. Rain was like the 5th unit in those sort of Lightbearer teams as well. Thane, I don't remember Thane ever really doing too much crazy, to be honest. It used to be Belinda as the damage option in the Lightbearer team, and that's where I remember it being. And then over here, like I said, Isabella, she got a massive rework since where she was there. But then we have Grizzle. This is the crazy thing to me, because now Grizzle is like... Grizzle's just had a complete transformation. He had a rework, and he's just gotten better over time. He's done really well, to be honest. Let's move on into tier 1. And tier 1, we have the Lucius and the Belinda. These two were like the team. They were like the Lightbearer core. They were your tank and your massive nuking DPS. Belinda, I still recommend, is a common hero, but hey, Awakened Belinda looks savage. But yeah, Lucius was the man. If you didn't get a Lucius, you were struggling as a sub tank in the Lightbearer team. Like, you just needed that guy. But yeah, those were the best of the Lightbearers that we had at launch. Then we get into Verk and Screg. How Verk got up there, I can't remember. Screg was okay, but Screg's had a complete rework as well, and Screg was not as good as he is now. Obviously, we never had furniture, so we never had the invade side, but I really remember these two being actually that good. I feel like almost tier 2 was better than them back in the day, but I can't quite remember too well. Then we jump into Leica Nomura. Leica's still an amazing unit. Nomura's still a great unit. She was useful back in the day for different reasons, well, similar reasons, but now the thing I like most about Nomura is her 9 furniture and the insta charm. I just think that is so valuable in today's current state of the game. But back in the day, her healing along with her charm was absolutely fantastic and just great sustain. And when we look at healers, she was like the only healing option besides Lucius with his heal on his shield, and then also with Totem Dude. But Totem Dude's heals weren't as great once you got like past the first day or two. So it was pretty much Lucius, or you got Nomura, or you were boned on heals because no one's using the tree heals. And that's where it was. And then we also had the Athalia and Pharrell. Now, Athalia was a great tech pick. Keeping in mind, she was super hard to get copies of back in the day. You just had to get really lucky. There was no stargazing at that point, anything like that. So if you got one copy, you were super lucky on Athalia. And then Pharrell. Pharrell's just, once again, another one of those units that really stood the test of time, still has usage in today's game state, but the fears were just really solid on Pharrell. And then we jump into the God tier. The God tier. I think everyone remembers Shamira. Even people who weren't around in the days of Shamira know about Shamira. She just had self-healing and full board damage. It was just too good. You couldn't do anything about it. It was like you had to have Shamira. Honestly, my favorite team back in the day, this is the back in the day, it was Tassie, Leica, Nomura, along with Shamira and Lucius. That was like my favorite team, personally. I like that. Or you could go the Brutus. The thing I liked about the Lucius was the shield goes on everyone, so it's an everyone support, which helped enable Shamira. And when you had the healing of Lucius and Nomura, along with the haste of Leica getting you started, and then the control of Tassie, it was such a savage team. I absolutely loved it. Plus, it gave you a 3-piece bonus as well. It was pretty good, not going to lie. But Tassie was just an absolute dominating force. Because deficits were much lower, everyone would put Tassie in the front row, or depending on the situation, you could often put her in the front row. She'd take a hit, she'd teleport away, you'd have someone else from behind, and it would spread that damage. It would also get her energy up faster. She'd sleep everyone, she'd banish. Tassie was just so good because she was so enabling for the Shamira carrier as well. It was crazy. And then we had Brutus. Brutus at the launch of the game was like the everything character. He was the tank, he was the DPS, he used to just absolutely shred, he used to deal massive damage, plus with that invulnerability, then he would heal himself when he spins. He was just an absolute crazy unit, and to be honest, he's still an amazing tank. Like I said, the game state nowadays where you just need to avoid all damage or you're not a tank is true, and he has had that feature all through the game. Now, the cheat death wasn't as necessary back in the day because you could be chunky and not get down that low and then spin and get back up. But it was still a pivotal part of the way you worked. It's just like nowadays, it's like you need that sort of invincibility type effect to have any sort of usage at all. But yeah, that's the tier list from back in the launch. Those are the characters we had in the game. Dude, the nostalgia is huge. Let me know what you guys think. Do you remember playing back there? Dude, the game's changed a lot. But anyway, that was a bit of fun. I had to go through it because I just love looking at this stuff. I'm a big nostalgia fan, and that one really hit me when I looked at it again. But as always, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.